Okay, hi everyone. So I think we can start now. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. We are tech associates from the internal team. I'm Ryan, and with me we have Kay, Wanting, and Tag. A big thank you to the operations team and publicity team for helping us out with the event organization. So in this workshop, we explore how to use the OpenAI API and also how to create a text-to-speech chatbot by integrating the OpenAI API. So we also be introducing what is OpenAI and large language models. So a large language model basically is a deep learning algorithm that can help you perform a variety of tasks using NLP. And then, so basically we train a model and then it will be able to spit out output based on the inputs that you take in. So how do we create an LLM? Basically, we just do a little bit of training and using large textual data sets. And also we do fine tuning so that it can be accurate and fast. So some examples of LLMs are OpenAI and also Google's Gemini and also Meta's Llama model. So I think right now there's a huge hype over generative AI and LLM. So what's exactly the difference here? So generative AI is actually an umbrella term for AI generate content. So this can be text, code, images, videos, etc. So but on text and produce textual content. So some examples are DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, and Codex. So now let's talk about how we can obtain the OpenAI API. So, but first of all, what is an API? So API is actually a set of rules and protocols that allow different software applications to communicate and interact with each other so that they can exchange data and functionality seamlessly. So an API can menu that you order, like a menu at a restaurant that shows you the dishes that you can order. Then when you choose some without needing to know how to cook yourself. So the first step to create an OpenAI API is basically we can head over to the OpenAI API documentation page to get started. And so let me just show you, once you reach the page, we can, that you can see all the documentations here, and then you can also look at all the different capabilities, be it text generation, function calling, embeddings, fine-tuning, etc. And after which you can, on the left-hand side, you can click on the API keys page. And then from there, you can actually a new API. So we will use this API our own chat. And now let's talk.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So wait a second as I stream. Hope you requirements. So for today, we'll be using Gradio and OpenAI. So now we're going to integrate our code with API. So in the code block that you should have, you will see a key, and then under it, you will say your API key. So just now, from what Ryan showed you, the website, just copy and paste your API key over there to where the red arrow is pointing to. Okay, now we're going to explain how the code works. So what you can see here is a very broad framework of how our chatbot is going to function. I'll be focusing in particular on the text-to-text response, how you get from text to text response. So to do that, we'll be using ChatGPT. More specifically, we're using the OpenAI chat completion. Okay, so as seen over here, for under the completion block, the model that we'll be using is GPT 3.5. And under messages, what this does is there are actually three types of messages: the system message, user message, and assistant message. The system message will help to set the behavior of the assistant, the chatbot assistant that we're using, and the user message will help to instruct the assistant. The assistant message will then help to store the prior messages. We can also control the temperature of the output. So we set it at 0.8 for for the sample code that we have given. And just know that the higher the temperature, the more creative the reply. Okay, now we
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about this OpenAI function to actually transcribe and also generate the text response. So for our code right here, the first thing that Mantan actually did is actually to generate response from GPT. So whenever you create a text output, it should generate a response. So if I run the code over here, let me try. Over here. So how you can run your code is actually to type in Python 3 and the file name. So in this case, it will be speech.py. Yeah, so you need to wait for a bit, and after that, it will prompt you to, it will show you that it's running on local URL. So actually, you can click this link, and this, if your interface shows this radio interface, that means your code is running correctly. So what this does is actually the same thing as ChatGPT. So for example, if you give a prompt like, who is the tallest person on earth, and you submit it, it should give the output that GPT will give. So for example, in this case, the output will be, as of now, the tallest person in the history was Robert Wadlow. So this is the output that is given by the GPT model itself. And the next thing that we're gonna do is to move on from this text-to-text response generation into audio text. So because we want to build a speech-to-text model, so what we need to do is actually to transcribe the audio from a user to become a text. So the reason for this is because GPT for now, the API that we are using only accepts text output. So what we need to do is actually to transcribe the audio that the user gives to a text, and after that, use this text to generate a response. So how does this transcription work? So basically, we're gonna make use transcribe function API has. So this function will take in the API key, the model language. So in this case, we define the language as English. And then let me try to share another window. So if you can see over here, this is the text that the first function gives, which is to generate a response based on the input text from a user. So another function that we need to do is actually to create a transcription function. So let me just do it for a bit. So what you need to do is actually to let Gradio to take input audio instead of text, because just now we see that the user needs to talk to the Gradio interface first, and then you need to transcribe this audio. So what we need to do is actually to make use of this function from Gradio, and then the input, instead of text, we make it Gradio audio. So this is a function that is defined in Gradio, and after that, we need to process the file from this audio. So what we need to do is actually to define another function called process, and it will take in the file path of the audio. And after that, we will need to open this audio file by using this function. So the next line is to set the API key into the key that we already typed in the beginning, and to make use of this OpenAI audio transcribe. So the model that we are using is actually Whisper1, and the file right here is actually the audio that you already opened. based on the file path. Yeah. And then the user input will be the transcribed text. So you actually need to access the text of the transcription over here. And then after that, you need to append these messages into the user input. So the reason why we need to do this is actually because the OpenAI function, the chat completion function that Manteng already went through, actually allows the user to save in the message or the conversations. So if you append the text into the entire messages, then it will save the entire messages. But in this case, we will just return the user input, which is the transcribed audio. So if I need to do it, so how you can run the file is by running Python 3 or Python in your if you are using the Python of version 13 and below. And after that, the file name is speech.py. Yeah. After you are running that file, it should actually bring you to this Gradio interface. So instead of the text just now, it will show a recording or an audio input. So what you can do is actually to like see something, for example, who is the president of Singapore? And when you pause this and you click submit, the OpenAI will actually process the audio input and give you a text output. So the second function that we did just now is actually to transcribe an audio and return a text. So to make sure that our speech to text model work, we need to actually generate a text response from the ChatGPT model, and then return it in Gradio also. So what we need to do is actually to combine both process method in part 1 and in part 2. So let me just show you the code real quick. Yeah. So over here, we already defined a function that can generate response from ChatGPT. And the second function that we define is actually function that transcribe an audio. So the last thing that we need to do is actually to just combine both functions. And how you can do this is actually to just make use of this process file path. And then instead of returning a transcribed text, you can actually return a completion, which is the chat completion went through just now. And then make use of this function, OpenAI chat completion. You create a model with GPT 3.5 in this case. You can make use of GPT-4 as well. And then you can, you give the message that you want to give. So in this case, it's the message. And then the temperature to control the creativity of the model. And then after that, the response will be completion dot choices message. Actually, this define we can look through that later on. Yeah, and then the same thing, you need to append this response to the entire array of messages. And also, instead of returning the user input, we can also return the response generated by the GPT model itself. So yeah, because there are two process methods, we need to comment out one of the methods. So the last thing that we need to do is actually just to run this file again. Yeah, let me just switch to it. Okay, so the first Gradio that we see in the beginning is actually to have input text to generate an output text from the ChatGPT. The second window of Gradio is to actually transcribe the audio into a text But this text is actually not something that ChatGPT generates. It's our audio transcribed. So the last thing that we can do is actually to say something. Maybe it's the same thing again as just now. Who is the president of Singapore? And once you submit this code, basically what it's trying to do is to transcribe your audio first, and after that it tries to generate a response based on the transcribed audio. So it's combining both of the methods that we already defined. So as you can see over here, the output, it is clear that ChatGPT has generated a correct response. Is it correct? Okay, but it's the most recent response from their database, which is Halimah Yacob. Yeah, so this is the response from ChatGPT. Yeah. And I think after this, Tech will go through prompt engineering to show how we can modify our prompt better for the model.
All right, guys. So I'll be talking a little bit on prompt engineering. And the main purpose on why prompt engineering is rather important is because the whole purpose of all this generative AI and stuff is really such that GPT and stuff can give us really good information for us to use. And if we expect good information to be given to us, the very least we could do is to give the model a good prompt as well. And that's really easier said than done. Because in reality, most of us, including myself, really we do not really know how to harness this generative AI to the full potential. But we'll be going through a little bit on how we can improve our prompt engineering capabilities. All right. As you can see in these two pictures, these two pictures are generated by GPT-4, the DALL-E version of photo generating version of GPT. As you can tell, both of these pictures are pictures of cats, but the right prompt is much more detailed as compared to the left prompt. In a case where we just want a simple picture of a cat, obviously using the prompt on the left side is much more efficient. It saves time, you don't have to write so much information. But if you want a more detailed version, you have to go for the choice on the right. And actually, I chose such a long text on purpose, in a way to exaggerate this. But in reality, we don't actually write that much information. Let's say if you just want a simple picture of a cat sitting on a leather sofa, we can simply say that. But in this case, where I want very specific information, we have to be specific to GPT as well. Because at the end of the day, while this AI is very powerful, the job as users of this AI to provide as specific as a prompt as possible. And in the next slide, we can tell that sometimes being extremely specific might not lead to good outcomes. Again, these two pictures are generated by GPT-4. The left picture is prompt to GPT to generate a simple picture of a computing student in NUS. And the right picture is a much more detailed prompt. But as we can obviously tell, there's something quite visibly off with the right image, with that being the code is facing the wrong way. And obviously that does not happen in computers. But sometimes in cases where we prompt engineer too much, this is over engineering evil outcomes. And this is actually quite normal. So if it's like this, sometimes all you have to do is to reload the page from. And on the other hand, if you should continue to get receive this kind of issues, that just means we are over engineering, and we shouldn't give the generative AI such a long text of information for it to process. As mentioned, AI is really powerful, but it's not completely smart, and sometimes too much information will cause it and produce real nonsense information. And in many ways to prompt engineer, if you search Google, at least different websites telling you. But I think the most important thing is the last thing, adaptation. As you use this AI software, over, start to learn how the software or the AI reacts to you, such that you'll fit to the AI more effectively. Of course, understanding context and keywords are important as well. It's quite key that we choose proper keywords. As you can see in the past few slides, if I want a specific picture of these species of cats, we definitely have to provide that information to GPT. If not, it cannot read our brain. It cannot understand what we are exactly trying to go for.
So this is just a random image I took off Google. So as mentioned earlier, a lot of methods method we can use is role playing. And role playing is actually one of the methods of prompt engineering. AI to take on the personality or the personnel of an expert or subject matter expert in the field you're asking for. For example, if you're asking how to build a bridge, you can ask GPT to take on a personnel as a civil engineer. If I'm asking GPT about relationship advice, I can ask GPT to take on a personnel as a relationship therapist. And if I'm asking GPT to help me with my code in whatever matter, I can ask GPT to take on a personnel as a university computing professional and ask it to criticize my code. And of course, the list goes on the exact situation you're asking. You can just simply ask GPT or any generative AI to take on the personnel or someone that's an expert in the field. And the rationale why this works is straightforward. This allows GPT to focus all its mechanism towards this specific field, such that you won't consider other nonsense or start to daydream regarding irrelevant information. Right now, I'll just show a simple example. So let me change my screen share. All right. So now I'm currently screen sharing my default page. Let's take a simple example. And the most simple example I can probably think of at this point is, let's go with photosynthesis. So let's say I'm quite curious on how, and I go with the simple prompt. So just a fun fact, GPT-4 is actually slower than GPT-3.5, and how we is that more powerful than GPT to run the process. So yeah, that's bear with the speed of GPT-4 for a short moment. And right now it's giving a lot of information, just general information regarding photosynthesis. And this might be relevant. So let's just say if I'm an expert in biology already, I already know how the Kelvin cycle works, for example, and I want to learn more about the chemistry behind photosynthesis. So a very simple solution is just to say this: expert in the field of chemistry explain how photosynthesis. So it's actually quite straightforward. It's just adding a simple line in front of every single prompt. Probably won't take up more than 10 seconds, but the output that it produces is probably much more relevant to what we are trying to achieve in this point. And if you want to go the other way of saying, like, for example, if we're not too familiar on how this exact area works, we can simply go with asking GPT in the opposite fashion. Explain to me, like I'm 5, on how the process of photosynthesis goes. And while it's loading, you can tell that GPT, because I asked it to explain as an expert chemist, GPT is actually giving much more information relevant to chemistry in this case, as compared to the previous and the previous output, which was more related to biology. All right, so it's done. And now asking GPT to explain to me, like I'm a young kid who knows nothing about photosynthesis. And the information that it outputs now is actually much more simple, much more tailored to someone with the. And we can use this in every single input that we ask GPT. It doesn't matter whether it's 3.4 or maybe 4.5 or 5 in the future. We have to ask GPT on advance of how it to explain it to us. Output will be more relevant to us in yeah. For example, for code, if you are providing me, it can be help us to inform the generative AI like a universal linear level so that the text that you produce. All right, and that brings us to the end of our presentation. And we do understand that this area field or area may be a little bit new or complicated. So if, feel free to raise up and your chat or just ask unmute us and ask. Feel free to do either.
Yep, so we'll be hanging around here till you guys can try out the different codes and prompts that are available. And please feel free to let us know should you have any questions or queries. Right, thank you so much for coming. Feel free to share any questions that you have either now or after. Thanks a lot.